parliament also that is for Kisoro, who also died in there. That's identified as in there. That's something we did see happening. That is where we also did see the member of parliament. That's in the name of Sarah Mateke, who has been also serving as the minister, state minister for defense and veteran affairs, as well as the district member of parliament for Kisoro, who succumbed also on Saturday morning in there at the age of 50 years. And now the country and the parliament also already will today on the September 9th of this month, also on the 9th of September this month, also already hold that is a special parliamentary sitting that is in honor of the late, who has been identified as a champion when it comes to issues pertaining the girl child. And that is something we did see also already in there, where she succumbed at the age of 50, also already in relation to heart attack. And we hope also already that also this parliament session will also be going on today, and we expect the members of parliament also to have that session also for her in there. She also joins the list of those members of parliament who have passed in the 11th parliament in there, where the numbers are also said to be very much high in there. While parliament said the program was arrived also at following consultations already with Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs, where she has been serving as state minister, and also Mateke's family together with the National Organizing Committee and each and every other stakeholder in there. And that is how they will be having that plan. And according to official burial program that we are seeing today, the body will be at Parliament, where prayers will be held towards also, where later on her body will be taken to her home in Nsanji, that is in Wakiso district, for night vigil. And tomorrow the second service will be held at All Saints Cathedral, that is in Nakasero, at around 8 a.m. and the body will afterwards be taken to that parliament for afternoon. That's for a special sitting, and the body will therefore be returned to Air Plus Funeral Home on Wednesday, where the body will now be finally taken to Kisoro district, where a number of activities will also be held, including that is also a council session at 2 p.m., prayers, as well as night church vigil, and that is where and how the program will be going on. And remember, she has been identified as a champion when it comes to issues pertaining the girl child, and she also really served the country very, very much well in there. Now that's today where we're talking about the peace, and when we talk about the peace, the docket she serves is actually one of those that is playing a great role when it comes to ensuring that the country is a peaceful and secure. And that's one thing also which we also do a very, very much appreciation for. And that's something also which at the end of the day, we must honor and praise her for, because when you look at also the Ministry of Defense, today you look at it also really as one of the very much important ministries in this country, playing a great role when it comes to the kind of peace that we are enjoying as a nation. In that means Mateke has actually done her part. May her soul rest in eternal peace, and may also God give courage to our loved ones in there. And that is where also we are going to be leaving the discussion aside with, as more details to that I will be coming tomorrow, but I can be able to inform you that that incident happened on Saturday, the tragic incident. But as a country, we continue to mourn, and we hope also God gives also eternal peace and eternal rest in there in heaven, also with the rest of the angels in there. And that's something also where we are going to be leaving the discussion aside with, because usually we say death is painful, and that's how we know the relatives could be feeling now. And to the people of Kisoro, we are saying also we are mourning together with you, and that is where we are going to be leaving the discussion aside. And now still talking about what is in relation to the world of security. Over the weekend, we are able to already see the official handover, a party that is for Charles Chogor, who bid farewell to this region, and where he was also able to hand over officially, that is now to the incoming resident city commissioner Salim Kumakech, in a function that took place at Lesuba on Saturday, where Charles was identified and described as a leader who championed teamwork and also security also in there. And that is something also where we did see is that party happening. That's on Saturday at Lesuba, attended to, of course, by a number of leaders also ranging from security, where we were able to also see officials from the UPDF, Uganda Police, and prisons also sent in apologies in there. Many leaders also attended. We were able to also see resident district and city commissioners from many districts of West Nile also being part of the celebrations, where the State Minister for Lands and Urban Development, Obiga Mario Kanya, was able to also serve as the chief guest. And that is something also we were able to also see happening on Saturday, very colorful, and we hope people of also Moroto are now going to be also enjoying, because they have a new leader who knows what exactly to do, what exactly also to do when it comes to teamwork. That is actually one thing he was very, very much well appraised for, And that means also we need to support the new incoming RCC, which was already the pledge and also already the call of the outgoing resident city commissioner Charles Chogor when it comes to asking the people of Arua City to extend the similar support they extended to him. That's also the new incoming RCC. So already we continue also with what we call peace, and that is something also which we did see happening in there, where many of the leaders described him, Charles Chogor, as a down-to-earth leader who also served integrity, who loved the people of Arua City, and that is something also which at the end of the day they will be also missing as a city in there, because he came at a time where there was a lot of insecurity, where people's phones, handbags of the women were being grabbed, but when he came in, he was able to work shoulder by shoulder with the rest of the people out there, and what we saw at the end of the day was peace. And you're talking about that peace advocacy group, one of the groups that has been supporting the security of Arua City, with also really providing security in there. Yesterday also pledged to continue giving support. That is to the group also really of Arua City in there, following also really their resumption also really of security efforts, because we were able to sort of see them going to field yesterday to also arrest these criminals who had survived, and we were able to sort of see a number of them being paraded also and taken to police. And that is something also which at the end of the day we saw happening, and they were actually advised by security to avoid overspeeding once they arrest these criminals. And that is something also which we did see happening in there. And I was able to sort of ask how they identify that this is a criminal. They actually came out and confessed to me. First of all, it is the community members who identify these criminals and tell them that, look, this is a criminal. You have to do this. You have to make sure that you arrest them. It is actually from a tip-off from the community members who are very much vigilant. That means vigilance is very much critical when it comes to identifying this issue of security and criminals, because you may also really misinterpret somebody for a criminal, and then the person might also really go to court and also really defend. And once the person goes to court and also really sues you for arresting them as criminals, then that may be very, very much difficult. Then it means these people have to arrest the right people. They have to arrest each and everyone they know is a criminal. Not that everyone they're going to be going for is a criminal. I don't understand that. But I am saying they need to arrest the right people when it comes to also these issues of criminality, because if you look at Arua City today, you have a number of people who are into criminality, and that is something also which we cannot hardly run away from. And that is something which at the end of the day, I feel I need to talk about, because if you look at the issue of the criminals, for long it has been a challenge, and a challenge also that needs also to be dealt with, because today if you talk about security, peace, then we have the peace. But who are those people who are actually promoting the peace? It is each and everyone out there who supports security, and the peace advocacy group is actually one that has tremendously supported with the voluntary work, and I was able to sort of ask some of the challenges that they go through, that they also talked about intimidation also from these criminals, with some also who warned them that they will be also hurting them, as others also stressed the challenge of welfare, because this is a totally voluntary work where nobody pays you, but rather you have to do your work. And that is one thing also which we feel we need to also continue talking about, and that is how at the end of the day we are also going to be having security in Arua City. And over the weekend as well, we were able to sort of see a number of mob action activities where people were being murdered. We had a murder case reported in Zombo, where this was also a suspected thief who also was also moving from Goli Customs towards also Arua City, where he was also intercepted and lynched by a group in there. And sadly, we were also able to also see an accident involving one of the generals of West Nile, who also was able to sort of knock about 4 people who died, and that was also a regrettable incident happening also over the weekend. And there are many other activities also happened, but we are saying all in all, these are all God's arrangements, and we are not going to be dwelling very much on that. And happening really over the weekend also really still, before I forget, one of the issues also that came out very much also really featuring in the handover party, that is of Charles Chogor, was the issue of politics. If you have to look at the environment today, you will realize that a lot of issues will continue to happen, and many people actually are now eyeing several positions. And I can now ably inform you that this was actually one of the warnings where people were asked to play their cards very well. And this is also coming out from the fact that today some of the leaders also really, and those eyeing the positions, can hardly cook in the same saucepan. And really this is a description that was already, that two people cannot now hardly live in a place. And this is exactly we are seeing what we are seeing in a rural city. And I believe the same could be happening elsewhere in West Nile sub-region and the other districts of West Nile in there, and northern Uganda at large, and the country at large, where the incumbents are facing also the challenge with those eyeing the positions, and where those eyeing the positions can hardly give the incumbents rest. And this is something also which we are seeing happening. And one of the messages that came in is that let these people play their cards very well. Let them do some tendencies of also really playing bad politics. And bad politics is actually one issue that also really featured very, very much in there. And that is one thing also which I need to now remind each and everyone out there. You may not be also eyeing what we call a parliamentary position, but another political position, we are saying you must now play your cards very well. If at all you are eyeing, go to the electorates, tell them that this is what I will be able to front. Avoid pinpointing, avoid pointing fingers at those people. Go and tell them that this is what I want, this is what I will be able to solely achieve. If at all you're an incumbent, tell them this is what I haven't done. I'm going to be doing this in the next slot in there. So have they trusted me, support me, and when the right time comes, I will be giving back to you as members of the community in there. And that is something which we did see happening. And we hope also really each and everyone out there will be also really in support of good politics, because good politics is actually promotes development, and bad politics does a lot of this service. And that is one thing also really which we feel we need to also talk about. Now the issue of poverty also as well. With poverty, bad politics will definitely maneuver its way, because we're going to be very, very much adamant to work, and that is one thing also which at the end of the day is going to be leaving poor as paupers and beggars from this for handouts from these politicians. We are saying the last land in West Nile sub-region is still said to be vast. We must take advantage of it and to use also and to cultivate. If at all we have plenty of land, it could be in the villages. Let's use it to also do a commercial culture, and at the end of the day, if at all we're not doing that, then we are going to be the ones who are also going to be lagging behind, and that will not be well for us as a region and as a nation as well. So what I'm saying is we are called also to work hard and use the available land to do active cultivation, because if you talk about West Nile sub-region today being poor, we have just got connected to the national grid. How is that going to be impacting on the region? That is one thing also we are yet falling upon, and we want to see that also as an advantage. And this is where with also the available power, we could be able to tap into that, where also if at all we establish small factories that require power, that would be quite well. For those who do works and activities that require power, definitely you have the available power. We could be able to solely tap into that, and that would also be very, very much well for us to also benefit from as a region and as a city as well. These are the calls that we also passed on to the RDCs, where they were asked by the State Minister, who was the chief guest, to embark on issues of socio-economic transformation in West Nile sub-region, because if you look at West Nile today, you will realize that a lot of issues already are seen taking place here, but none of that is being talked about. When it comes to issues of socio-economic transformation, that is actually the message the minister passed on to, that is the RDCs of West Nile, to also embark on the issues of socio-economic transformation. Those who got transferred, they were also asked to go and serve where they are also already going to be serving, because it is still within Uganda. Those who are incoming, we are pledged that is support to also work with. That means this is also something where we need to also adjust where necessary. Those who are coming in must also learn something from those who are already on ground, to also make sure that they move towards active development of the people in there, because they are to work for the people, and the people are the ones whom they also need to serve diligently in there, so that solely they move away from poverty line. And today, when we talk about many of the places in West Nile, many also lagging behind when it comes to certain issues, because many people don't know what exactly to do. And that is one thing also which I feel I need to remind you of. And now, leaving that aside, angry mob lynch a suspected thief in Semabule district is another story that we are seeing right now away from West Nile sub-region, where a 28-year-old man from Semabule district also was brutally beaten by angry mob in Luku village, Butenga sub-county, after he was caught in the act of burglary. And that is one thing also which now I want to call upon the young people of this region to also resist from. When you talk about also the theft, more so burglary, you will realize that a lot of young people are also being killed in this issue. Just over the weekend, one was caught also and lynched after also the suspect being caught with stealing a Senke motorcycle from the part also from the side of DRC as he was jetting this side. He was killed after being intercepted in there. But that means we need to also avoid issues of theft. Let's engage in commercial culture, and that would also make sure that we earn also to our set in. Now this incident occurred on Saturday, and that's where we did see also which left both residents and relieved and concerned, as theft solely in the area becoming increasingly rampant. That is in Sambwe district, but we are talking about also other districts solely in West Nile sub-region, which could also as well be facing the same challenge of theft. Now, according to reports, Kakoza and his accomplice already identified as Moses had been also monitoring the movements of that target. That's a local resident named that as Moliki Seka, and that's where they also broke into his house in there, into a house in there. Now, also armed with a hammer, the suspect also allegedly began digging a hole into Kiseka's also the house and used the 6-inch nail to force their way in her house, stealing several items, including that TV set and a hoofer also in there. Now, however, their brazen robbery was interrupted by a vigilant resident who noticed also that the unusual activity and raised the alarm, drawing the attention also of other villagers to also come on board and pursue these also suspected robbers in there. Now, also that is something we did see happening in there, and this was in Sambwe district, where Moses managed to flee also with the scene with some also of the stolen goods, but Kakoza was apprehended also by the furious residents. And now the mob quickly surrounded also Kakoza and began beating him also mercilessly in with sticks. And also that is also where we did see fearing voices like Kakoza confessed to being part of the larger gang also terrorizing the region, and he named also several other accomplices, including us Moses. We have Isa Muhammad and Waswa, and revealed that the stolen items were taken to Nyendo, a town in Masaka City, where they were sold to a man identified as Faizo Semanda, who allegedly runs a shop dealing in stolen electronics. And that's something we did see happening in there, where the confession has also alarmed authorities and the residents alike, also highlighting a wider network of criminals operating across multiple districts, including Masaka, Kanungu, Semobile, and Bukoma and Simbi districts. In there. That means that area has been actually terrorized by these gangs. Now that the one has been lynched, what message does this send to the rest who are also on the run at the moment? I want to tell them that their 40th day, just like their colleague, will come, but that we are not promoting, of course, mob action, because this is entirely against human rights, because human rights do not permit mob action, and there's nothing like mob justice, because there's no justice that can be served by community members. Justice can only be served by the courts of law. That means we need to also ensure that people's rights, that is to life, is respected, as well as people's right to property. That means thieves need to also know that as they are going to take people's property, as they are worrying for their life, people's rights to own property is actually very, very much crucial. That means if at all you're a thief, have it in mind that people's right to own property is actually just the same as your right to life. Because if the community members catch you, they may not give a listening ear, but we are saying mob action is one thing we need to desist from, we need to also avoid, because at the end of the day, that is something which may not be right in here. Now, Lukuku village has seen a rise that's in theft-related activities in the recent months, where livestock theft became increasingly rampant, where shortly after mob attack, also police officers arrived at the scene to rescue Kakoza, but he also succumbed to injuries shortly after his arrival at the hospital. Now, Southern Regional Police spokesperson Twaha Kasire confirmed Kakoza's death and also said the matter was seriously taken, and that is one thing also which we feel we need to also avoid when we arrest these criminals. Let's send them over to police, and the police has to do one justice, that is of not releasing these criminals out. Let them be kept there. If at all we also catch them with the evidence. And now police also intensifying their search for Moses, who remains on the run, and also investigating Faizo Semanda, the suspect also purchasing and reselling the stolen goods. And during the confession, also Kakoza provided shocking details about the gang's operations. Already explained that they targeted villagers with residents where the residents are absent, with hammers and also nails to break into their homes, where they steal valuable items in there. Now he claimed also that he had turned to the theft as a means of also the survival after failing to find honest work in there. But really, is theft what you can be able to resort to if at all you find, or if you not find any other alternative to work? Does it mean you should continue to work also as a thief in there? Should you continue stealing? That is one thing also which we feel people must desist from. We are saying theft is never a way of survival. Bukoma and Simbi District Deputy Resident District Commissioner Fred Kalema condemned also the act of mob action and also urged the residents to refrain from taking the laws in their hands. And that is one thing also which we feel must be given keen attention. And now the mob reiterated that they are warning to residents to report also suspected criminals rather than attacking them, and assure the community also that further arrests will be made and those involved in the theft will be brought to justice. And now Kalem also urged the thieves to abandon their criminal ways, warning that such activities would also lead them to tragic death. And that is one thing also which we need to also warn the thieves on and tell them that theft is never a way of survival. You can find other alternatives and survive. Just like any other member of the community out there, you will be able to survive in there, because just like over the weekend, we were able to see a suspected thief that was on Friday being murdered and was able to be buried on Saturday. That's in Madioko district. But we are saying thieves must do some distance, because really to deal in theft is never a way to survive, because at the end of the day, that is something also which you are going to be also losing your life for. And that is one thing which I feel I need to remind you of this early morning, and these are things that continue to happen over the weekend, because on Monday like this, we have a lot of stories also that stretch up to Friday, and that is one thing also which we also saw happening in there. Now, on a similar incident, but this is related to accident, two people were confirmed dead. That's also in a tragic accident that occurred in Katakwi, and now the two believers have died. That's on spot after a truck they were traveling in. That's from Katakwi to Soroti Solid Highway, or Fushulori, the number that's UAL 522D, also overturned, and that Damal in Nancha. The regional police commander has confirmed in messages also by press time that two people had died also, and several others got injured, and the accident also occurred at Tabela in Gwetom sub-county in Katakwi district. So in there. Now the lorry was reportedly also carrying over 60 women and 3 men also who were returning also from a women's conference that is in the Katakwi district. So in there. Now, according to another witness, the driver lost control of the vehicle due to overspeeding and causing the truck to overturn in there. That is one thing also we need to also avoid ourselves from also engaging in, because when you look at overspeeding today, many of these accidents have actually been attributed to overspeeding. But what message can the drivers who are onto this road speak from also what's happening elsewhere? And that is one thing also which I feel is very, very much important. For the drivers out there, let's ensure that we do not also engage in overspeeding, because if at all you're going to be overspeeding these vehicles, this is a machine, remember, where the command is entirely into your hands. And much as you are still engaging in the also overspeeding, you don't know what awaits you and what is also to come your way as you also overspeeding in there. Now emergency response teams quickly arrived at the scene, and the injured also were rushed to nearby hospitals. Some victims also taken to Katakwi Hospital, while others in critical condition were transferred to Soroti Regional Referral Hospital for further management in there. Now the identities of the deceased have not also been released, and the number of injured also is still being confirmed. Authorities, however, also they have launched an investigation in the incident, and that is one thing also which we feel we need to also keep you also awaiting also for. And that is one thing also which we feel we shall be also coming back and give you if at all, more details on that. This is still a developing story, and if at all the numbers are being released, and if at all the numbers of deaths also increase as well in there, we shall be still coming to inform you tomorrow, hopefully. And that is one thing also where we are going to be leaving that discussion aside with, and move also elsewhere to look at some of the stories in there. Now, as political tensions rise, Batariganya has also already urged constituents to stay local. Is another story that also we are seeing right now in the papers, and I hope this also sends a message to those in a rural city, most especially those also in Central Division, where we are likely to also see bad politics taking place. And that's where we did also see, as Uganda approaches the 2026 general elections, political leaders are also ramping up their efforts, and that is one thing also where we did see as political tensions rise. But Ariganya also asked the constituents to stay loyal, and that is one thing also which we feel people of the local governments need to learn from. When we talk about the local governments, I mean people also in Central Division, people in Maracha, people in Terego, people in the entire Western sub-region need to sort of learn a lesson from, because we are likely to see elections that are a bit higher and also tensions in there, and that is one thing also which we feel we need to solely talk about as we get to go on with the show. And now as Uganda approaches towards the next general elections, the local leaders are already ramping up their efforts, and now Grace Kasende Batariganya made a passionate plea to the constituency during a priestly silver jubilee celebrations for Reverend Father Charles Luanga Materubuka. That's at Magogo Resort in Rubirizi district in there. Now that's something also where we did see Batariganya, who represented Rubirizi district since 2011 as a woman member of parliament on the ruling NRM ticket, made the call that's for loyalty, comes also at a time when the political climate is becoming increasingly competitive, and her call also of loyalty comes at a time that's where we're seeing that happening, and by directing her appeal to elderly, disabled and other vulnerable groups, she highlights a commitment that's also to addressing the needs of every part of the community as the election approaches in there. Now the Silver Jubilee celebrations also, which include Thanksgiving Mass for Father Max Mubangizi, provides so Batariganya also with a significant platform to reinforce a connection with the constituents in there. And that is one thing also which we feel should also be able to be a call for each and every person out there to also make sure they stay loyal and also stay calm, because if you look at the elections, we are likely to see also the people being also divided when it comes to their support, because people who support Team A will not want to be with the, together with the people of Team B, and yet these are the same people who deserve the same services, who actually access the same social service facilities, and that is one thing also which at the end of the day, I feel people must also be able to learn from. And that's where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside with Minister Salam Musumba calls for political reset in Uganda, still the same issue. A worry also of political vacuum and leadership crisis, and Proscovia Salam Musumba, a prominent figure also in Uganda's position, has also called a political reset, emphasizing also the need for fresh start in the country's political landscape. And that is something also which we are now also seeing happening right now in the papers, where Musumba also defined brand within the Forum for Democratic Change, revealed also that the party has been also seen part, interception is dissolving and preparing also for transition to a new political party. She suggests also that the move is necessary to address the political hang-ups facing Uganda in there, and that is where also she called for political reset. But will this address the loopholes and the gaps into the kind of politics that we are witnessing today in the country? Will it be able to solely answer the questions, first of all, of bad politics? And then secondly, how we are also doing politicking? Will it also solve the issues? These are questions that we need to also ask in there, because they realize that a lot of the political parties are going through a lot of issues. You look at the opposition, you realize that also people are talking about dissolving, people are talking about also opening up new parties. Where will that put the opposition at ahead of 2026 next general elections? These are questions that we feel we need to also talk about, because if you look at really the months actually running at a terrible speed, where very soon we shall just find ourselves into the next elections. But how ready are we when it comes to these issues? These are questions already which we feel we need to also ask, because when we look at also the elections, you realize a lot of issues are going to be coming out also from these next general elections. But how ready are we as a nation already when it comes to these elections? Because these are issues which at the end of the day are going to be putting people out. Also the question to ask, how ready are we? And how are we faring in? And that is where also where we are going to also leave the discussion aside. But I want to inform you that as the months are getting closer, I really want to make a call of also good politics, because if you look at the bad politics, first of all, it hampers development. Then secondly, it causes division amongst the people, because if you look at also people of Team A, they wouldn't want to sit at the same also environment also with people of Group B, and that is also at the end of the day how we are going to be seeing also people living very much divided. And that is one thing also which at the end of the day is also where we need to also address our issues. We need to also front our efforts and also make sure that we are doing what it takes to make sure that also we are together, because if at all we are not together, then definitely that is how we are going to be seeing ourselves lag behind. And if you lag behind, that is how we may not also be very much well in there. That's where we're also going to make that call also of good politics still, to make sure also that we get the services. And now that's where we also did see people also called upon to identify the right leaders. We need to identify the right leaders, one who will also listen to our ideas. We should also not avoid, we need to avoid one challenge, that is of people who will give us money. Because if you look at our politics, today it has been very much monetarized. Where they move to the constituents, they will be able to tell you, if at all I did not get money from these politicians, I'm not going to be voting, which is really quite unfortunate and quite difficult at the moment. Also something which we feel must also be given keen attention to, because if at all that does not happen, then we are likely to see very bad politics also taking shape in this country, and many people would be able to and also lose their lives in there. Because if at all we talk about bad politics, we definitely know the repercussions, where it is also tensions, where people attack one another. That would be very much bad. And leaving that a story aside, public urge to make use of health centers. This is another story that we are seeing right now, where the Deputy Resident City Commissioner from Mbarara, Robert Kanusu, has asked Ugandans, particularly residents of Mbarara City, to prioritize public health centers for medical needs. And the call also aims, that is to enhance healthcare access across the country, also while reducing the burden of Uganda's overcrowded referral hospitals. And that's something where we did see him also speaking also at the National Celebration of World Physiotherapy Day, that Kanusu, 2024, Kanusu stressed the importance of visiting health center 2s, health center 3s, and health center 4s, which also are equipped to manage also a broad range of health concerns. That means if at all you are facing a challenge, be it malaria, be it suspected headache, rush out to the nearest medical facility and avoid tendency of self-medication. Today, you know that self-medication is actually a great concern, where many people already are facing the challenge. And now emphasize that these facilities should be first point of contact for patients, rather also than immediately also turning into referral hospitals. And Kanusu also pointed out that private hospitals frequently also refer complex cases back to government-run facilities, which are also better equipped for specialized also treatments. And he also issued a statement also which underscores the critical role of public health centers in providing solely early and preventive care. And that is one thing also which we feel needs to be echoed, because if you look at also late going to these health facilities, this is where we have been able to realize a lot of the deaths, because people go to these health facilities when their conditions have now worsened. It's actually quite common with men. We the men have a tendency of persevering a lot without necessarily visiting health facilities, and that is where when we see now the conditions worsening, that's when we now start thinking of rushing out to the nearest health facilities. And yet the health center 2s, 3s, and 4s provide a wide range of services that can prevent many cases already from escalating. The levels also where referral hospitals also can be able to take care of that. Now that's one thing which we need to also make sure that we also take advantage of. Because for the minor cases, you look at the minor cases, these health center 2s, 3s, and 4s can actually provide the kind of treatment that people need. And then when the conditions worsen, that is where the hospitals then can also be able to do that. But we are saying people must take advantage of the health facilities. Today, the government has actually done its part in providing also medical facility or medical assistance when it comes to the drugs, medical personnel, but people are not taking advantage of that. And today we have also seen a lot of nurses being trained out there at the clinics and also these small hospitals also providing services in there, but people do not want to visit them. People feel self-medication is actually very good for them, but we are saying that is wrong. We need to also avoid tendencies of self-medication because it is never good in there. Now public health centers provide also the crucial platform for those also in the rural areas where access to private also hospitals is limited and often unaffordable. That means if at all you're in a rural setting, the health centers are actually in there, and then you need to take advantage of them. And now these government-run facilities also offer essential services such as immunizations and also antenatal care, helping to prevent also more severe illnesses. And now by embracing public health centers, Ugandans could actually make the most of government's efforts to providing also accessible and affordable healthcare across the country. That means we need to take advantage of these facilities because they are providing cheap and affordable services in healthcare, and yet many people are taking advantage of that. How is that going to be impacting on the livelihoods of the citizens, and how is that going to be impacting on you who is out there? All in all, I'm saying we need to avoid those tendencies. Let's embrace seeking early health seeking behavior, because that is also the one thing also I do understand that in behavior change communication we need to also keep on telling people early health seeking behavior is very much crucial, because if at all you are feeling sick, you need to rush out and find out what exactly is wrong with you at the early stages, because sometimes people get to also die because they visit the health facilities at later stages when the conditions have worsened, where the doctors can hardly do anything now. And that is one thing also which we feel, if at all you're sick, go out, get tested. If at all it's malaria, find out if at all it's malaria. How's the treatment for malaria? If it's typhoid, it is the doctors that would be telling you that it is typhoid. But sometimes we find somebody is weak, somebody is sick, then the conclusion that it's malaria. How do you know it's malaria? These are questions already which we feel our people already must learn from, because each and everyone out there should be able to learn from that. If it's not necessarily malaria that you're suffering from, it may be another disease. So really my humble appeal, my humble call to you is that we must also avoid these issues. We need to also learn from also what is happening elsewhere. Early seeking health behavior is actually what we need to also prioritize in there. And that's why we're going to be leaving that discussion aside with, as we just left with 3 minutes to wind up this hour. And I hope also you, the viewer, also can be able to share your thoughts, share your opinions, and also in relation to what we are discussing, that's in relation to early health seeking behavior in there. And remember, we also talked about earlier on a number of issues where I was able to also give you a light, where I was able to throw a light. That's already on the party that also happened in there. That was also for the outgoing Resident City Commissioner for Arua, Charles Chogor. I was able to also talk about the death of the Chisora woman in Parliament. That is Sarah Mateke, who also died over the weekend as a result of heart attack in there at the age of 50 years. Now I can also be able to also inform you as a reminder, the residents and now leaders from Kisoro district have also expressed what we call sorrow and described the late legislator Sarah Mateke as a unifying force within the district and also within the community. And also now the news of her death came as a shock to the people in there. Now the State Minister for Defense, who also served as also the woman member of parliament, that's for Kisoro district, also died on Saturday morning, also after reportedly suffering a heart attack in there. Now at the home of Minister, that Mateke's father, Philemon Mateke, and also where we did see also that happening, where mourners came in numbers also to mourn the fallen legislator in there. And as a country, we still continue to also mourn this legislator in there, because if you saw what happened, and really for a unifying leader to go, it becomes very much difficult, because there are very few. By the talking about this quality of being a unifying factor, this is with very few leaders. It is actually a God-given also talent. Many people not also have in there, and that is one thing also which I feel our leaders need to build. Let them also embark on building that, because to be described as a unifying leader, then definitely you know what that means. But sometimes you find a leader when they die, people tend to rush very much also to say that this did that, this did this to me. This was actually the cause of this and that. It will be very much bad. And that is where we are going to be also summarizing our discussion in the first hour with. And I hope also you as the viewer will still keep it with us up to also 9 o'clock, because 8 o'clock is going to be our second hour. But for now, we are going to be taking this quick important breather. My name is Farish Majid, and our final destination remains, of course, 9 o'clock.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Kylian Mbappe! Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and limited passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back. Hope you're still with us. And our final destination, of course, remains 9 o'clock. And I was able to solely inform you that as a country, we are still mourning the death of one of the legislators. But now, to leave that story aside, let's now look at what's happening elsewhere. I want to inform you that when also on Mondays like this, a lot of things, of course, continue to happen, and where we welcome you back from the weekend. I don't want to say very many issues solely continue to happen in there. And that is one thing also which we feel we need to also remind you of, because I was able to already inform you of those issues that continue to happen in there. Now, leaving that aside, President Museveni calls for culture audit at Karamoja Cultural Festival is another story that we are seeing also. Remember, it being a Monday, I must say it was a busy weekend, and we did see also President Museveni also already calling for a thorough examination of cultural practice to ensure alignment with modern scientific also already understanding. And the president made this remark while expressing appreciation that's for people of Karamoja sub-region for re-exploring and repurposing their cultural heritage. And we did see the president already has highlighted some detrimental conditions that also already such prohibits against marrying also within the same clan, and the consumption also already of boiled milk, which also can harbor harmful microbiotics. And that's something we did see also the president appreciating the people of Karamoja for also really mindset change in there. Now, emphasizing the importance of discerning scientifically valid cultural practices, President Museveni also already said, as we discuss a culture, we must audit also practices that are scientifically accurate and which also really should be abandoned. And that's one thing also we see Museveni also really talking about in there. Now, the president also made the remarks on September 7th, 2024, as the chief guest at the 9th Karamoja Cultural Festival that took place. That is at Jubilee, where we did also over 2,000 secondary schools coming up. Koi grounds in Karenge, also district in there. That's something we did see happening on the same subject. Some clan marriages also, the president family stated that such also really practices are disguised to prevent inbreeding, and also underlying the need. That's what here scientific also really sound practices. And President Museveni also really went on to stress the necessity of African culture, which is also evolving dynamically in there. And today you realize a lot of our cultures are actually changing because of also modern traditions that are coming up on board. And that means cultural preservation is actually very much key. That means the remaining elders must be able to learn something from that. They should be able to sort of pick a lesson also in relation to that. And at the end of the day, we would want to see also really that this and everyone out there also really is actually in the know of what is happening in there. That's one thing also where we are going to be leaving a discussion aside with. And the president also went on to caution against that is notion of steady culture, emphasizing also culture should not confine us to our past mentality. That is one thing also where we did see the president generally calling upon the people of Karamoja towards mindset change. And we did see on the other hand, Museveni also highlighted the critical challenges of facing the sub-region, also really, particularly the scarcity of water, for both livestock and also really the local population. And he reaffirmed also the National Eastern Movement government commitment to resolving also these pressing issues. And additionally, the president also expressed the delight in newly also established union and also the Lokirama Peace Accord between the Karamojong and also Turkana communities of Kenya, emphasizing also that such also cooperation and dialogue are essential in promoting lasting peace in the region. And that's one thing also which we did see happening in there, where we also talked about promotion of tourism and peace also in there. Because if you look at Karamoja sub-region, today you realize that a lot of potential tourism sites are also in there. For one who has not moved in there, you will also realize that Karamoja is actually one of the potential tourism attraction sites, because I took a part and I was able to move up to a beam, and I was able to realize that Karamoja could actually be a destination. Because look at the culture, first of all, that is actually a potential tourism site, because we have today people who come to just see culture. And today we are also seeing many people moving to Karamoja to just see how the culture is. That is in terms of food, in terms of dress code, in terms of how music, in terms of also a lot of issues, which also attracts many people today as tourists in there. That means Karamoja could actually be a potential tourism destination, and that is one thing also which at the end of the day I feel I need to sort of keep you reminded of, because if you see what happens in there, and then you realize that a lot of issues also continue to happen in there, and that is one thing which I feel at the end of the day I need to sort of remind you of, because we are when you talk about Karamoja today, many people think it is actually a region that is very much undeveloped, but we are saying it is actually a region that yet, yes, it is undeveloped, but it could actually be a potential tourism site and a potential tourism destination for tourists from both the domestic and also the international tourism. Many people would actually generate a lot of money from that. And that is one thing also where, as a country, we will be able to generate a lot of money in terms of taxes. That's from tourism, because if you look at tourism today, it is actually one of our greatest contributors to the GDP, and that is one thing also which we feel we need to also talk about in there, because if you look at tourism, we cannot hardly underscore the potential and the ability of tourism in driving also the country towards socio-economic transformation. Because if you look at tourism today, many people would actually benefit from that when it comes to issues also really pertaining to tourism. You will have a lot of issues also continue to happen in there, and that is one thing also which I feel at the end of the day I should be able to sort of remind you of, because if at all we're not reminding you of that, then definitely many people also are going to be also not understanding why Karamoja is actually a great tourism also potential site in there. Leaving that aside, with an 84-year widow is also crying over eviction from Nambole land is another story we are seeing, where Miss Nora Navageresa, an 84-year-old widow whose land has been fenced off as part of also the renovations for Nambole Stadium, is also in tears in there, and the 84-year-old widow whose land has been fenced also as part of the renovations of Nambole Stadium has cried foul over delayed also completion by the government, and that's where we are seeing Nora Navageresa say that despite High Court also calling for her compensation up to date, she has not also received the money in there. Now, according to also the Circuit 1997 order in the government, to also measure the 16 acres compensation for her, about 22 million also occupying it illegally. Nothing has been done, because she was to be compensated to a sum of also 22 million since 1997. That means that this money could have also appreciated. Navigator says she has moved also from office to office, seeking also for help, but nothing has been done, where she was able to knock post doors in vain. But who is supposed to compensate her for the money she's been demanding? Because if at all her part of land was fenced, also as part of government land, then she really deserves also to be compensated. Now the land in question is in Chadono block also 234, plot 263, located that's in Kirinya, also in there. Now the land is now also already being valued at that's shillings at 2 billion, at an average also of 2 billion per acre, and also the family wants also really the government to pay them this money also if it wants to permanently take it in there. And that is one thing also they are demanding for their money also in there. Now, according to court documents, as seen also by journalists, Navageresa's late husband, that's Taka Crespo, leased the contested land also to Granite Quarries Limited for 49 years also in 1969 in there. And that's something also where we did see also that instead happening. And when the lease expired, the quarry company vacated the land. And following reports that the land could also have been grabbed, Nabageresa's family also in 2010 conducted a title search. That's at the Ministry of Lands in there. Nabageresa and her family sued ULC and also other parties involved in also what they described as a fraudulent land acquisition. And in August 2017, Uganda also land commission also failed to prove ownership of the land, and the High Court also ruled that it fraudulently also transferred Nabageresa's land title into its names in there. And now the court ordered the commission to pay also the fine of 22 million to the complainant and transfer the land also the title back to Nabageresa's family also as administrator. And that is one thing also where we are now seeing the 84-year-old together with the family members also really demanding also really for justice in there. And that is one thing also we did see. And when the Attorney General Kiwanuka was contacted, he acknowledged also that that he was aware of the matter, but said he was also really following up on the matter in the courts of law. And that is one thing also we did see happening in there. But Miss Justin Nasuna, a daughter of Nabageresa, also accused the Attorney General of playing politics over the issue in there. And that is also what he said when we find it irregular by government. And also the Attorney General to say that an appeal was made, yet the court also made its pronouncements to reinstate Nora and James in 2017. And that is one thing also which the family is also already feeling unhappy about today. But really, how do you make sure that Nabageresa and the family get justice? Because if you look at the 84-year-old today with the issues of land, land is actually one of the issues today we are seeing people killing themselves over. You look at land wrangles. Many people today are not also greeting each other because of others crossing boundaries. You check your neighbors. How often do they greet you? And how often do you check on your neighbors where issues of land conflict is there? This is one issue also which I feel I need to talk about, and I also want to make government, I want to call government to also make sure that they address these issues timely, because when you look at these issues, then you'll be realizing that many of times, today people are also facing a lot of issues on their lands, and this is where government needs to come out and support them. And my appeal also to people out there is that let them embark on one thing also really of what we call issues also really of land titling, because if they don't title the land, then definitely they will be realizing also a lot of issues already dragging them backwards in there. And that is one thing also which at the end of the day, I feel we need to talk about. Because when you look at issues of land, land is an asset that we usually say does not depreciate. It keeps on appreciating each and every day. That means today if you buy land at 10 millions, trust me, you will never sell this land at 10 million. Trust me, you will never sell this land at 9 million. The prices will always go high. That is where today land has also become a challenge. And today with the increasing population, people are having a lot of land wrangles in their communities. That means we need to also make sure that issues of land are actually addressed. And that is one thing at the end of the day I feel people should be able to sort of learn from. And now the land in question also, I talked about it in there. And we hope also the family will be able to now get the justice that they are demanding. And that will also make sure that the government actually supports them in there. And that's where we expect the Attorney General's office to come out and also support the family in their plea also for justice in there. Because if they do not get justice, then just like them, many people are going to be losing trust in also the judicial officials in there. That will be very much bad. And that's where we are also going to be leaving the discussion aside with, and hope people solely will be able to solely share their opinions in there. Now leaving that aside, court pours cold water on US UCL move to fire, that's the executive director, and that's another story that we are seeing right now, where the court in Kampala has also prohibited the Uganda Cancer Institute from replacing also really its deputy executive director, that is Dr. Victoria Walusana. Justice Musa II ruled that Dr. Walusana is still valid, holding the position, and also really, and cannot be replaced. And that is one thing also really which we are seeing in the past right now. And Walusana's application also challenging her replacement despite still being the substantive deputy director. She was appointed also really the position by President Museveni, and the appointment also really was communicated in a March 2013 letter written also to Cancer East India. Now court also ordered, also so that also in December 20, Dr. Oriem or issued an internal memo, also internal advert, inviting also the heads of also department to apply for the position. However, that second also ruled that Oriem's decision was unjustified, and there was no reasonable also cause for attempting to remove Dr. Walusana in there. And that is one thing also which we did see happening there today. But people also, when it comes to reinforcing their position, it becomes quite difficult. And now just second also quashed the internal job advert, declaring the deputy executive director position still vacant, stating that it was temporarily also motivated, and he emphasized that the public also decision should not be influenced by improper also motives such as fraud, dishonesty, or personal interest. And that's one thing also with this happening their way. Further also noted that Uganda Cancer Institute Act should also provide, also aimed at also asserting authority over those providing life-saving care, that's to cancer patients. And that's something we did see happening in there, where the judge also concluded that the court can also show, and court should intervene when sanctuary powers are also exercised improperly, also even if also the legitimate purpose is untimely achieved. That means for those who are into these positions where power is also based upon them, definitely you should also know one thing, they have one thing in mind, that the powers you're holding are not absolute. Now that means you should be guided first of all by your constitutions, if at all you have any constitutions, and then the act, because for those who have the acts, then you should be guided by the acts. And that would also really make sure at the end of the day people get the justice they deserve, because then you find that many people are being removed from their positions unfairly in there. And that is one thing which has left many people today also helpless and also really without also necessary support in there. And that is one thing also where we are going to leave the discussion aside with, and to move also really in there. Also that's something also we are moving on with the story. And remember, many things also happened on Friday, where we are able to sort of see a number of activities happening, and that's where we are going to leave that discussion aside as we get moved on with the show. Because it being a Monday, I want to inform you that a lot of things could have happened in over the weekend, and this week also may be as a busy one, and that's where we're saying we need to also avoid ourselves, first of all, in falling into trouble. And that's one thing which at the end of the day, I will be able to sort of save us in terms of sort of getting ourselves into problems in there. And that's one thing which I feel I need to remind you of as we move on, and that's one thing also which we feel we need also to talk about. Because if we don't talk about these issues, these are issues that continue to happen in the communities, and that will be very much bad in there. Now, Uganda Airlines is also marking 50th birthday with new routes. This is another story we are seeing right now in the papers, where the 50th birthday will coincide also with the launch of 3 more routes. That's this week, where we shall be seeing now the cargo, also the planes flying to Nigeria in Abuja, where we should see them also taking destinations, that's Lusaka and Harare in Zimbabwe as well. Now from the first also commercial flight, that's Nairobi, August 19th of 2019, the route also the network also now covers 16 destinations, with additionally new also 3 ones to be launched this week. And that means we need to also really celebrate as people of this country, because as Ugandans, the Uganda Airlines is actually raising our flag very much high. Just imagine moving to Dar es Salaam and you find Uganda Airlines. Trust me, we are going to be being proud of that, because really for people who love the country as patriots, definitely you'll be able to also realize that this is actually a good gesture, one that must make us proud and we must celebrate of. But somebody will be saying, I've never bought an airplane. Why should I celebrate? You are celebrating on behalf of the government, you are celebrating on behalf of the country, because this is actually what your money as taxpayers is doing. And that is one thing also which we must also really celebrate in there. Now, according to Civil Aviation Authority, International Airport is now connected at 3 airports, that in 20 countries also in there. However, before Uganda Airlines entered the market, only 9 of these countries and airports we are served by direct flights in there. Now that's something also we did is happening now, starting also with the daily service to Nairobi. 5 years ago, Uganda Airlines quickly also ramped up. That's also its route, that network, that's Dar es Salaam, and Kilimanjaro, also Juba. We do this also them taking to Mogadishu, Bujumbura, and before COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the global economy and air travel also in March 2019. And that means today Uganda is actually very much proud also of this airline. That means we are still praying for more, and we are also looking forward to see the network also and the coverage also of Uganda Airlines be spread and into entire country and entire world also in there. That would also make us proud, because if you look at the continent of Africa, Today, many of the countries are now also being affected also by our airlines. We are able to see our airlines now moving to many of these countries. But we want to see the connection be widened in the entire world in there. Now, the career was also, however, quickly repurposed to play a crucial role also in the reputation of Ugandans who had been also left stranded in the different parts of Africa. And as COVID-19 also travel eased, route development already resumed with the launch of services to Johannesburg in South Africa, where we did social services also extended that to Kinshasa in DRC, Dubai also in United Arab Emirates, Mombasa in Kenya, and Zanzibar in Tanzania. That means today our airline is actually moving to those countries. And last October, we were able to already see also besides route expansion, there has also been frequently growth in the individual routes, increasing choice already and flexibility from customers, and that is according to information we received from the ED, that is Bamturaki in there. Now, Johannesburg already is now served in daily routes, that is 20 times already a week, Juba 9 times, Kinshasa 6 times, and also Bujumbura 5 times in and out. This has contributed greatly to also significant growth in the revenues and also traffic, with passenger numbers hitting more than 1 million over the last also 5 years in there. That means we are still following up on that. And over the coming 6 days and 6 months, the career is mulling also to Accra, Riyadh, and United Kingdom. And that means these are planned destinations, and we shall be also reaching in there. Because if you look at Uganda, we are also removing, I believe, in the great also path in there. That means we need to appreciate the management also of Bamturaki, who at one time also faced challenges when she was only being appointed as the ED of Uganda Airlines in there. But today we are seeing her doing a great job. That means we need to also really support sometimes. We don't have to doubt in the early stages, because we never know that what the person is bringing on board could actually be what we need as a nation. Because if you look at Bamturaki, by the time she took over, we were able to already see a number of chaos in this country, where Apostle protested appointment, but she was able to also retain it in there. And last 5 years, the national careers shakes off its infancy, where more than 600 direct jobs have been created, with additional also 15,840 in the direct ones. And the figure also is derived from the airlines facilitation of tourism, expenditure across also the supply chain, and spending also by its employees, actually playing a great job in terms of creating employment opportunities for the citizens in there. And that is one thing also which we feel makes us proud as citizens of this country, and we hope that would also make us also very much also proud in there. Now, leaving that story aside, UPDF set to retire 236 lower ranked soldiers. Very good gesture, because sometimes you have seen people deserting because they feel they cannot retire, and they got also resign from the force in there because of the conditions. Also prepared, the rest are non-commissioned officers